Hi and welcome to Old Time Knowledge. Well, in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about some of the things that I absolutely love to have in my pantry that I canned at home. Also some things that I won't be canning again, but also I wanted to mention that on the community tab, a few days ago, I released a PDF that I put together with tips from the last live stream I did. And so if you want to get that PDF, which is just on just really basic preparedness and the different kinds of things I talked about, and there's a little extra stuff in there too, then when you're done watching this video, definitely pop over to the community tab and click the link or copy and paste the link and grab that PDF. And I'm going to probably be doing more of these, including one on tonight's topic. So let's get into it. What things do I absolutely love having in my pantry that I canned myself? And then what things will I probably not can again? Well, first of all, my number one item that I love, I don't ever want to be without in my pantry, I can it many, many times throughout the year because I use so much of it, is what Lisa Sutton of Sutton's Days lovingly calls ugly chicken, which is just boneless, skinless chicken breast that has been pressure canned, raw packed, which means to make this, and you see that liquid that's in the jar, right? To make this, all you do is you take some boneless, skinless chicken breasts, you cut them up into pieces that will fit in the jar, you put the lid on the jar, you put it in your pressure canner, and you process it. If it's a pint, you process it for 75 minutes, and if it's a quart, you process it for 90 minutes. And you end up with this beautiful boneless, skinless chicken breast, which is shreddable. It's so tender, it's as though you stewed chicken breast for like an hour and a half. And it makes its own broth, which is amazing. My two favorite things that I love to make with this are chicken salad. I drain out the liquid, and then I just take the chicken and mix it with some mayonnaise and some pickling cubes, salad cubes, I guess is what they call them. Make some delicious chicken salad. Another thing I love is making chicken and pastry with this. I also in the past have canned chicken breast on the bone, but ultimately I just decided not to do that anymore because I don't like picking the bones out. It takes a little less time. Actually, you'd be surprised, but actually canning chicken on the bone is a shorter process than canning it just boneless. But I don't can that anymore because I don't like picking out the bone, so I just do this boneless, skinless chicken breast. And this is perfect. I can have homemade chicken and pastry on my table in under an hour. And it would be even less time if I used store-bought pastry, but I make my own pastry and I let it chill for a few minutes before I actually put it in the pot to simmer. And the chicken's already cooked and stewed and ready to go. So I love it. There are so many things you can do with this chicken. You can use it in any recipe that's going to use shredded chicken. I mean, there's a lot of casseroles that would work with, especially. You could use it for things like taquitos or, just chicken quesadillas, chicken soup, like just a whole lot of different things. But for casseroles, another great option that I love is this, which is also boneless, skinless chicken breast. But this is not raw packed. This boneless, skinless chicken breast, if you can see, this has an actual broth in it. This was parboiled. Well, I diced up the boneless, skinless chicken breasts into pieces about an inch in size. And then I just let them boil just until they were just almost cooked all the way, not quite. They don't have to be tender by any means. The whole idea is just you're kind of firming them up so that when you put them in the jar, you can pour hot broth in here and you can add herbs if you want to, and then you can it. And the thing with this kind, while it's boneless, skinless chicken breast, this is going to hold its shape a little better, which does lend itself more to adding it to things like a casserole, or you might actually want those little pieces of chicken rather than just shreds of chicken. So just another great option. But there's a lot of things you can do with this too. Okay. Another thing as far as chicken that I won't do, I mentioned the chicken breast on the bone. I also don't do chicken legs or chicken thighs. There are some people who love canning those, but for me, there's nothing that I'm going to cook with canned chicken breasts or chicken thighs The only things that I normally use dark chicken meat for is in cooking is going to be fried chicken or stir fry or karage, which is Japanese chicken nuggets. Those are the only things I use those dark meat chicken thighs in particular for. So there's no sense in me canning those, so I don't. But I know some people love to do it. You can make a lot of things with those if you love that really super, super, super tender dark meat chicken. Okay, so the next thing that I absolutely love having on my shelf is this. The official recipe for this is called roasted pork and spicy broth, but I call it carnitas in a jar. I don't know if any of you have ever had carnitas before, which is like pork butt that's been sort of fried and then you shred it. It's cooked until you can shred it. You can pull it into big chunks. You can serve it so many different ways. But with this, I happen to use loin in this one, but I also have it in with like a large pork butt. You dice it up, you roast the pieces for a little while. Then once it's starting to brown, you put it in the jars, you add broth. The broth you make with a combination of crushed red chili, black pepper, oregano, garlic, and sliced onion. This is so flavorful. It is so good. And when you actually heat this pork up, they recommend that you actually brown it in the oven so it gets kind of toasty, kind of like carnitas would be. But you don't have to do that, because a lot of times if I'm going to have this, I'll open up a jar of this myself, drain out the liquid, heat the pork up in the microwave, and then make some corn tortillas on the comal, just get them nice and toasty. Serve it with some salsa verde and some guacamole, and I've just got some delicious tacos de carnitas, pork tacos with green salsa. It's so good. Some people love having this roasted pork and spicy broth. Just they'll eat it like this, like a soup. I'm not so interested in that, but you could. This is also it can be super shreddable, but there's another pork product that you can actually have for that. I'm from Eastern North Carolina. My family's been here forever. So barbecue is just part of my heritage. No, this is not barbecue, but this is just regular pork butt that's been raw packed in jars. So again, we got a difference. This is one that's been canned in a broth, flavorful broth. This is just pure pork butt. So when you take this out, this is really like pulled pork, right? You can, if you're from Eastern North Carolina or you've been to Eastern North Carolina, then you know the kind of vinegar-based sauce we put on barbecue. You can make some of that. I have some of that at home all the time that I make. So if I really wanted some barbecue, no, it's not smoked, but that's okay. I can actually take this pork, drain it, because it also makes its own broth, kind of like the chicken does. I can heat it up. I can add some of that vinegar-based barbecue sauce, or if you like the sweet barbecue sauces or any of the different barbecue sauces, you can totally do that. In addition, this kind of pork that's shreddable like this would be perfect to put in something like tamales, because you can shred this up and you can add the right salsa to it and then make tamales with it, and it will be so good. Also, pozole. If you like pozole, that's another thing that you can use this to get you a can of hominy, make you up some of the chili sauce to make the pozole. I'm not going into all of that here, but the point is you can make a lot of delicious things with this. So I definitely will keep this on my shelf too. Another thing that I love is ground beef. Now, this is ground beef in a jar. I have done this two ways. I like it this way. I don't like it the way I first did it. The first time I ever did this, I did raw pack ground beef. And I don't like it because it reminds me of dog food. I did use it all because ultimately it's ground beef, and I'm going to brown it again in the pan anyway to kind of crisp it up. But I like this much better. This ground beef is browned first rather than putting it in the jar raw. And then you add some beef broth or water to it, and then you can it. And so the thing with this is it keeps a better texture. It's still not going to be exactly like just browning some ground beef in a pan. It's just not going to be like that. but it's so close. So like if you want to have some ground beef on your shelf that you can use for making spaghetti or anything that's going to be stuffed with ground beef. Obviously, you're not going to make a hamburger out of this, right? Because it's crumbled up. But anything that you would use crumbled ground beef for, topping it on pizza, you can make enchiladas with it. You can, make any kinds of like casseroles that might use ground beef, lasagna. I mean, so many different things. Golly, even hamburger help or something like that. This is perfect for that because you can have a whole bunch of pints of ground beef on your shelf. Remember, it's about £1 per pint. So that's a super easy way to measure it out. And then you've got ground beef all the time. You don't have to worry about a power outage because it's ready for you. So another thing that I absolutely love is beef stew. I adore this, especially in the wintertime. I'm such a huge beef stew fan, but this has potatoes and carrots and celery and onions in it. You can put whatever you want in it. It's a beef stew. You literally just make it just like you'd make any beef stew. The difference is you're going to put it in the jar, add some broth, add your seasonings, can it, and you've got beef stew ready to go anytime. I will tell you my favorite cut of meat for that is chuck roast, even though they don't always recommend that. I love it with chuck roast because it's just so tender and so flavorful. But interestingly, one thing that I probably won't can again, and in fact, I still haven't finished what I canned the first time I did this, which was the first time I canned this was in August of 2020. And this jar is from then, and I had a few jars and I've used some of them, but I've still got this one left. This is just roast beef. Well, it's not really roast because it's not roasted, right? But it's like beef roast cut into pieces and then canned with broth in a jar. In fact, this might not have even been put in broth. This might have been raw packed. I don't remember. I think I did add broth to this, but in any case, I don't do a lot of things with shredded beef. I know that there are a lot of things you can do with shredded beef. I just don't do a lot of things with shredded beef. So it doesn't make sense to me to have that. So I won't be canning that again. But if you like shredded beef, just like straight up shredded beef, then by all means can it because it's a great thing to have. Now, let's talk about some soups and some stews. This is one that's from the Amish Canning Cookbook. This is called chicken corn soup. I absolutely love this. This is just boneless, skinless chicken breast that's diced up, and it's put in a broth that's seasoned with thyme and I don't remember what else is in here. But and then corn. It's a super simple soup. And then when I serve this, I love to serve this with a generous sprinkling of black pepper. It makes it so good. I love this soup and I will always want to have it on my shelf. On the other hand, one that I don't like that has chicken and corn in it is this, which is from the Ball Canning Cookbook called Aztec Chicken Soup. And I don't like this because I thought I was going to really like it, but it's just, it doesn't have very much kick to it. It does have tomatillos in it, and it has, green chilies in it, but it's just not very spicy. It ends up being just more tart and kind of sweet, and I'm just not a big fan of that. I think I would probably like this better if there wasn't corn in it, and it was just a chicken and green chili soup, and then I might add something else to it. But I won't be canning this again. But see, that just goes to show you can have very similar ingredients in something and you really love one and you don't love the other. Some of you may love the Aztec chicken soup. I just don't. Okay, another one that I love, which really just reminds me of a basic vegetable beef soup, is this, which is called farmer soup. This is also from the Amish Canning Cookbook. This one is a ground beef based soup that's got all kinds of vegetables in it. It's more of a tomato-based type broth. It's just really good, really hearty, especially for winter. I love this, and I definitely want to keep it on my shelf. Another favorite, South of the Border chicken soup, also from the Amish Canning Cookbook. Can you tell this is a cookbook that I love and I use a lot? This one is, it has chicken and kidney beans, jalapeno peppers, tomatoes, carrots, celery, corn, I think that's it. Maybe some onion. I don't remember if there's onion in it. This is so good. And I especially love to take this and heat this up and then add either a dollop of sour cream or I'll sprinkle some shredded cheese on top, or both. Sometimes I'll add a little more hot sauce if I'm in the mood for it, but this is so good. Oh, another good thing to put in this is some crumbled up tortilla chips. Really, really good. So next, chili. I make the chili using the recipe from the Ball Canning cookbook. However, I do make it a little bit more brothy. The way that they recommend it would end up being a little more thick, but I like it to have just a little bit more on the liquid side, because that way I have the option, if I want to, I can add beans, and it'll be good and it'll come together. Otherwise, I just feel like it would just be way too thick. But I love having chili on the shelf. This is so good. Heat up some of this, especially on a fall or winter day. Really good stuff. Serve it with some cornbread, sprinkle some shredded cheese on top. Delicious, y'all. Okay, last thing I'm going to show you is this summer soup. I have some of this, and I actually have a video for this. I have videos for some of these. So I'll put links in the description below of the videos I've already done on this stuff. But the summer soup is just, I call it that. It's what people have called it. I don't know if they call it this everywhere, but this is, I know, an Eastern North Carolina thing. You're basically just using some vegetables from the garden from summertime, like corn and lima beans and carrots. And, you know, you might put a little bit of tomato in there, but this is not a very tomato heavy soup. String beans, but then also a little bit of ham. You're not supposed to can cured meats. However, Ball Canning and other reputable canning recipe books do have some recipes for, say, split pea soup with ham, or they might have baked beans with bacon. It's just a very small amount of ham or a cured meat. So keeping things in the same proportion and canning this for the regular time you would use for canning meats, I'm not worried about this. I'm not a rebel canner. I'm not somebody who's going to just totally go rogue when I'm canning. If I do can something that there's not an exact approved recipe for, I'm trying to closely follow guidelines from other recipes. So these are some of my favorite meats and soups and stews that I love to keep on my shelf. I also have some vegetables and jams and jellies, things like cranberry sauce. Oh, I have French onion soup. I forgot to bring that over here. I did make that, and I will probably can that again. I just totally forgot, and I just thought about it. But that's another thing that I love having. I don't have beans here, you know, things like that. But this is a lot to cover in one video. So I think in the next PDF I put together, I'm going to put together some of those favorite things that I can and list the ways that I use them, because that will just give you some ideas. And I hope some of you might have some ideas for how to use, especially some of these standalone meats, and what would you do with them? How would you use them in recipes? What would be the things that you'd go to that your family would love? Because I'm sure there are a ton of ideas. We can all put our brains together and think of them. And sometime soon I'll have to do a video of some of the other things that I have canned that I love, and I'll do that. But just wanted to remind everyone, when you're done watching this, please give it a like, share it if you enjoyed it. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Also, pop over to the community tab so you can go download that PDF. If for some reason the link doesn't work in the community tab, you can also just go to oldtimeknowledge.com, and a pop-up should come up on the page that's going to ask you to subscribe so you can get the PDF. Just do that and you'll get it that way too. oldtimeknowledge.com. So I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.